just came back from the grocery store and running a couple errands, and I just want to say I am tired of the discomfort that comes from being around white people in this American environment. I'm tired of it, and I'm ready to be somewhere else.
When I saw this headline on Twitter, I was immediately like, that is the most trans thing I have ever read. Do you know how many times I've changed a label, stopped using a label, or just don't use a label around certain people or groups?
I don't know. How many toasters are there in Texas?
Because I don't feel like being harassed or having to explain myself?
Well, then maybe you shouldn't have the compulsion to explain yourself. And to whom are you explaining yourself to anyway? You don't owe anyone anything.
I stopped saying I have he, him pronouns to cis strangers because the look of confusion and processing in their eyes was a little too much for me to bear consistently.
Maybe that was because you're not presenting as a male. You clearly do not have any testosterone that I can see. You don't have facial hair, and you don't have a cock.
That I'm in a sapphic relationship with my girlfriend when both of us don't like using that label and consider our relationship to be lesbian.
Oh, fuck me. I'm just exhausted listening to this. It seems to me like you changing your sexual identity is your entire identity. I don't give a skin of shit how I come across when I say this, but I just think that's really fucking sad. Is there literally nothing else going on in your life?
And the thing is, I'm not even doing this around cishet people. I'm doing this around other queer people. My labels, identities, pronouns vary day to day, minute to minute, based on how much I feel like explaining myself, how much I feel like confusing people, and how tired I am. When they say you will never stop coming out, they mean it.
When we say how funny it is that we don't give a fuck, that you give a fuck, that we don't give a fuck, we really mean it.
Hi, Benji here, and this is why you should use your white guilt for good.
Well, then it looks like I'm going to be about as helpful as Harry Sisson in a weightlifting contest, because I have absolutely no fucking white guilt to speak of.
White guilt is the regret that white people feel when confronting the realities of racism and the benefits that they get from white privilege at the expense of POC.
There's no such thing as white privilege, and I don't feel the slightest bit guilty regarding anything to do with racism because I'm not racist. Nor was I personally responsible for anything that may have happened in the past. You know, it's best to nail that to the wall straight away.
A recent example was the killing of George Floyd in May 2020, which forced white people globally to confront their white privilege.
We can't confront something if it doesn't exist. Not to mention the people who apprehended George Floyd were made up of different races, so I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Maybe use a better example.
Guilt is uncomfortable. So a common reaction is to try and remove it. People will get defensive and deny their white privilege or try to apologise for it or perform shallow attempts at activism.
Don't worry, you won't find any shallow attempts at activism from me. And I'm not going to apologise for white privilege because, like I said, it doesn't fucking exist. You know, much like how black racists don't exist. Right?
This might help with the guilt, but the white privilege doesn't disappear.
Well, how can it disappear if it never existed in the first place? We're talking about white privilege here, not your dad, of whom I'm sure would be very proud of you, if you knew who he was.
You just don't feel so bad about it anymore.
Never felt bad about it in the first place.
For us to ever achieve racial equality, white people need to move past the discomfort and use their white privilege for positive, sustainable change.
You just contradicted yourself. You want equality, but you want us whiteys to help you. Come on, man. Personal responsibility, accountability, a good strong work ethic. Do none of these mean anything to you? And when I say you, I mean you personally before you fly off the fucking handle.
Let the guilt keep you motivated and accountable. Stop feeling bad and do good instead. That's that.
But I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad about being white at all. I'm not particularly overjoyed about being white. It's not as if I make it my entire identity. It's not really something I think about. Uh-oh, that's my white privilege showing, isn't it, eh? Yeah, fuck your white privilege. It doesn't exist. People like you are never gonna guilt trip me into doing anything I don't want to do. But please, by all means, stay pressed.